There are a lot of basic tips and tricks on how to be a reseller on Poshmark, but today we're going to get into very specific tips on how to be a successful reseller on Poshmark in 2023. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Joelle and I'm a part-time turned full-time reseller on lots of platforms, but primarily Poshmark. And like I said, today we are going to talk about how to be a successful reseller on Poshmark in 2023. There are the basic tips that Poshmark emphasizes we do pretty much daily as a reseller. You have to share your Poshmark closet. You have to be listing daily or at least frequently. You have to relist your inventory and you have to be active in the Poshmark community. We're not going to talk about those tips because those are very basic tips that, again, Poshmark emphasizes, so you have to be doing those every single day. But if you really want to scale your Poshmark business, this is the perfect video for you because I have very specific tips to being successful in 2023 on the app. There's definitely a lot to say in this video, so I'm just going to give a quick overview of what we will talk about and then we will get right into it. So first we will talk about finding a balance and being very intentional with your sourcing. We will also discuss customer service, optimizing your listing, and finally, we're going to talk a little bit about promoting. And if at any time in this video you find some sort of valuable information, I hope you consider subscribing to my channel. Like I said, I am a full-time reseller and I do post weekly YouTube videos every Thursday. This channel would not be where it is today without all of your guys' support, and so I really appreciate it. And now let's just get right into the video. First up, we're going to talk about sourcing. So when I say find a balance with your sourcing, I am talking about having a wide variety of items in your closet, specifically based on price range. I've seen a lot of people discuss the state of the economy right now and how it is hurting your business. And there are two sides of the story. The first side is that people who are already willing to pay hundreds of $1,000s for higher end items are clearly not hurt by the economy, and so they are willing to spend the money still. So you should be sourcing higher end items. And then there are other people who think that you should be sourcing cheaper inventory because with the state of the economy, people are trying to find better secondhand deals in general. So you should stack your closet with a lot more affordable pieces. I don't know about you all, but I myself have not seen anything to back up either of those sides. And so my solution is to just continue sourcing both higher end and bread and butter items, so you have that variety in your closet, therefore having more people looking at your items. And if you are looking to scale your business in 2023, especially if your sales have been slow lately, I would highly recommend, especially since we are still in the first month of 2023, to look up what is trending this year. All it takes is a simple Google search. You look up fashion trends 2023 and there will be articles everywhere. There will be Pinterest boards, YouTube videos, blogs, really any information you can find about fashion trends. Look it up and soak up all of that information because those are the items that will be in demand for the year. So these are the items, especially if they are higher end, that I am willing to pay up for. Usually my inventory costs around $2 or less, but when it comes to retail arbitrage, I'm definitely willing to pay more, especially somewhere like Nordstrom Rack where they do have higher end items. I will show you all some examples of items that I have recently paid up for. They have not sold yet, but they have definitely gotten a lot of attention in my closet. One of the best examples was this ALC halter dress. I sourced this dress online at the Nordstrom Rack website. It caught my eye for multiple reasons, one of which is because of the brand. This is almost a $500 dress. But I also saw the cutouts, the length, the color, really just everything about this dress stood out to me. And the funny thing is, I was on Instagram a couple days after I bought it and I actually saw that there was a person on Bachelor in Paradise. A contestant was wearing the dress. It wasn't the same color, but it was the same dress. And I am not just here to tell you all a random story. I am here to tell you guys that all of these celebrity spotting, online fashion blogs, what the stores are putting on their mannequins, what you see when you walk into a retail store, these are the things that matter because let's face it, what celebrities are wearing, what influencers are wearing, what stores are putting on their storefront and on their mannequins. Those are the items that most people are looking for. So if you can find similar styles, similar brands, or similar trends at the thrift stores, that is what you should be sourcing and what you should be willing to pay up for, because these are the items that will definitely get a lot of attention and will most likely sell fast as long as you price it right. Another example of an item that I thrifted for just $4.99 was this Ralph Lauren denim maxi skirt. Now, this was a black skirt, not blue, but one of the biggest fashion trends of 2023 is denim maxi skirts. I saw this trend not only on articles, but also on Poshmark. If you do not know, Poshmark has a daily trends feature where you are able to list or relist items that fit into the trends that they pick. I think the day that they had denim maxi skirts as a category, they also had a lot of Western styles. They had cowboy boots, high-waisted mom jeans, and a lot of other trends. I will be posting examples of Poshmark's daily trend features, but this is something that I have made a daily morning habit out of doing. Every single morning, I will wake up and look at the trends and see which listings I do have that fit into those categories. And if they do, I will relist them immediately, add whatever keywords Poshmark needs me to add if it does fit into the trend, and I will relist them so that more eyes will be on those listings. Another type of in-demand category you should be sourcing for is sports teams. I have picked up a couple of NFL pieces, specifically teams that have been in the playoffs, and so far I have sold 2 out of 2 listings that I have listed in the past couple of weeks. One of which was a Buffalo Bills hoodie, and I recently sold a Jacksonville Jaguars t-shirt. These are items that unless you can find maybe a jersey, you really won't make a lot of profit. I knew going into it that the Jacksonville t-shirt that I paid $5 for would probably make me around 10 to 15 bucks, but I didn't buy it thinking I would make a lot of money. I bought it thinking that it would have a really quick sell-through rate, and it ended up selling in just 4 days of listing. So if you see a team that just maybe won a championship, won the Super Bowl, whatever it is, definitely make sure to look out for those items in the thrift store, because you will have a lot of eyes on those listings, especially after a big game. All right, now we will discuss the flip side of finding a balance with your sourcing, which is sourcing bread and butter items at a cheaper price. Obviously, there are people that are shopping secondhand items very specifically. Maybe they're looking for something like that ALC dress I was discussing. But on the other hand, there are people that are just trying to find good deals. They might not know what they want, but if they do get a good offer thrown at them or a good price, they will accept. So I have my list of my favorite bread and butter categories and brands that I like to sell. These are items and brands that I will almost always pick up, and I don't necessarily know how fast they will sell or how much they will sell for, but I am confident that they will sell. So what I have on this list is American Eagle jeans, Express business and nightlife clothes, recent and Taylor Loft styles, really any type of activewear. And when we talk about bread and butter, my main brands are Nike, Adidas, higher end things like Lululemon and Aloe. We also have vintage sweaters and blazers, Lucky brand blouses, shoes, and jeans. And there's so much more, but those were the specific ones that I could think of. Overall though, I sell a lot of bread and butter items at around that $15 to $30 range. Obviously that price can vary because I do host a lot of sales. I have a name your price sale, for example, around 3 to 4 times a year. And I will get a lot of lower offers on those bread and butter items. But when your cost of goods is really low, those little sales will add up. So to wrap up, my first tip of finding a balance when it comes to sourcing is that having a mix of higher end and in-demand items along with cheaper bread and butter items simply increases the clicks coming to your closet, which is huge to gaining exposure and becoming a successful reseller in 2023. All right, next up, we will talk about something that I really didn't focus on until around a few months ago, and that is customer service. Now, there are a lot of benefits to online reselling versus in-person shopping. I personally do not have a conversation with every single person that buys from my closet. Unless the buyer asks questions, really the only time I will contact them is if there's a shipping delay, whether it is my fault or if it is a USPS issue, or if they gave a really sweet review and I just wanted to thank them for it. But one of the biggest things I learned this past year is when a potential buyer asks a question, you really need to answer it because that can turn into a potential sale. I've definitely dealt with a lot of potential buyers who ask a ton of questions. They might ask for a measurement that's already in the listing. They might ask if it is the true color or if it's true to size. And sometimes it seems like they're either trying to find an issue with the item or they're trying to talk themselves out of buying the item. But there are also times when they are genuinely interested in the item and they just want to make sure that they're making the right decision and know all of the details before they purchase something on Poshmark or other platforms, because it is so difficult to return an item. So I have a little note that I wrote in here, and I want to say it word for word because I don't want to mess it up. But I said here, you'll never get a 100% success rate in the sales industry. You'll never get sales from 100% of those asking questions. But it is so worth it to answer questions for a genuinely interested buyer. You never know who is ready to hit purchase. I think that is really important because as someone who is selling goods to people, we are in the retail industry as Poshmark sellers. You cannot expect to have a 100% success rate. Think about when you walk into a retailer like Foot Locker, for example, where you do get a commission if you sell a shoe. I myself have been into Foot Locker a lot where I have had questions about shoes. Maybe I've tried on a pair of shoes. And with that, there have been so many times that I have walked right out of Foot Locker after having a full-blown conversation with a worker. They did not make the sale there, and they are probably talking to hundreds of other people just like me, where they have a whole conversation, they give a pitch about a shoe and try to sell it, and they end up not selling the item. But all it takes is a couple of buyers to come in, and if you continue to give that sales pitch and try to sell an item, you will end up finding success. So if a potential buyer asks you a question, just go ahead and take the extra 30 seconds to answer that question, because you never know what is going through their head and if they're actually interested in buying the item. But answering that question could turn into a sale. Another thing about answering those questions is that that is something that you should consider adding to your listing. So for example, if a buyer asks you if a pair of jeans are high rise and you forgot to add the rise measurements, maybe that is something that you should add to all of your future listings when you are listing jeans, because that is a commonly asked question when someone is trying to buy a pair of jeans. I know personally I used to not add measurements to my listing unless it was maybe a higher end item or it was a vintage pair of jeans or a dress. But whenever somebody would ask me for measurements, I would go ahead and tell them, and then I would add those measurements to the listing. And looking back, sometimes it was frustrating to answer those questions, but thinking about it now, I just take that as constructive criticism to myself and to my business, because if somebody is asking a question, that almost always means that it is something that is not in the listing and that I do need to add to it. So again, not every interaction with a potential buyer will turn into a sale, but it is always worth it to answer those questions, because you never know who wants to buy your items and you never know what might be missing from your listing. And some of those questions that buyers are asking might be that missing piece. All right, I have one more portion about customer service and how it relates to growing your reseller business in 2023. And that is specifically on Poshmark to use the My Sellers tool to your advantage. The biggest thing that you could do with the My Sellers tool is to host a sale or to promote your sale. Like I said earlier, I do host a Name Your Price sale, usually every 3 months. I started hosting this sale probably a year and a half ago at this point, so I have sent out the message several times to thousands of people at a time. I will share a screenshot of my most recent Name Your Price sale that I had in November with the message that I shared with everybody. Now, I don't have any credentials to say that I am some professional when it comes to marketing or advertising, but I definitely watched a lot of YouTube videos and a lot of resellers who have hosted these sales. So I have learned a couple of basics when it comes to sending out messages like this. One of the biggest things is to have a good hook. So for me, my thing was to say, Name Your Price sale immediately so that these potential buyers know exactly what to expect with this sale. And of course, you need to state if there are any exceptions to this promotion that you are having. Poshmark allows you to use 500 characters when you are sending a message. Obviously, don't be too wordy. You want to have a very simple message, but if you do have a lot to say, definitely use those 500 characters to your advantage. I think that this message, I used almost 500 of my characters and I definitely had to condense. But another way to utilize this tool is to send messages during closet clearout day. Closet clear out day is something that I have recently started participating in more frequently. I've had a couple of sales in the past, but now I am trying to use it almost every single Friday or Sunday because they do host it weekly. And if you are a new Poshmark seller and you don't know what closet clear out day, it is basically a promotion that Poshmark hosts every single Friday and Sunday. Sometimes they will extend the sale into Monday, but it is basically a sale where you can edit your listing and drop your price by at least 10% of the lowest historical price. And when you do that, it will notify all of the likers on that listing that the price has been dropped, and for the next 6 hours, they can get, I think, $3.99 shipping on that item. So it is a great way to give your buyers a discount, but that shipping discount will not come out of your earnings. So it is a win-win for both parties and definitely a great tool to utilize as a new seller. Now, so far, I do not send out messages to all of the likers, but when I do have a new liker on a price that I have already dropped, I will send them a message and say that this is their chance to get this item at a discounted rate before it goes back up to my original asking price, and for the next 6 hours they can get discounted shipping. And I do actually have some proof to show that this works, because the last closet clear out day I participated in, which was last week, I dropped the prices on all of my Lululemon items, which included a lot of Lululemon outlet finds, and I ended up making 2 sales out of it, which were pretty high profit sales. I sold this Lululemon Align tank, and I also sold this Lululemon Scuba half zip hoodie, and both of these listings sold within 2 weeks or less of listing. So to wrap up my customer service section of this video, you don't need to interact with every single person that interacts with your closet, but when someone does ask you a question, just reach out to them. Even if it is a difficult question, just respond to the question, because first of all, you never know what your listing description might be missing. Second of all, you can't expect people to not have questions when it comes to shopping. We all do it, whether we are shopping online or in person. And finally, you never know who could potentially be a buyer. All right, now we're on to one of my favorite topics, which is to optimize your listings. Now, I have made a lot of videos in the past about optimizing listings, and I think the most important thing to realize as a reseller selling on an actual app is that as the app changes, your business model needs to change as well to cater to what that app wants from their sellers. If you've been around on Poshmark, you remember the dreaded update that they had. I think that was a year ago at this point, but it caused an uproar in the Poshmark community. I know I was very upset about the update, but they just made a lot of changes all of a sudden, but it was a change that we eventually had to adapt to. I know they ended up changing it back to the original update, but the moral of the story is that you really just need to adapt as the app changes. Everything about Poshmark is evolving. They're always trying to grow and cater to the largest audience, which is why they added live shows, for example. You don't need to do live shows, but you need to recognize that this is a huge part of the retail industry, as in there is live stream shopping worldwide. This is a huge industry. It will not be going away. So again, it is something that as a Poshmark seller, you need to adapt to, whether you do live selling or not. I personally do not sell live on Poshmark, but I do on Whatnot. But a huge part about online platforms evolving is that a lot of tips and tricks evolve too. So when it comes to optimizing listings, the biggest thing that I want to talk about is fashion keywords that you need to add to your listings. Now, when I talk about adding keywords to your listing, I usually add mine at the bottom of my listing as tags. I am not talking about the people who will just add an entire list. They will spit out trends, brands, irrelevant keywords. It is just a nightmare, all of the stuff that they add. I will have a screenshot for you all to see. Do not do this. Do not be that seller, because it totally messes up people who are searching for specific things. I notice this a lot when I'm looking for free people. A lot of people will post something that has a boho look. Maybe it is from a boutique, and they will say that it is free people inspired. That is something that you can say maybe on a live stream if you're selling on Whatnot and you say that this looks like free people. But when you put it in your listing, that is something that completely messes up Poshmark's search algorithm, because when someone is looking for an actual free people blouse, they are going to see a ton of different brands that are totally irrelevant to what they're searching for. So again, don't be that seller. When I talk about adding keywords, I'm talking about adding relevant keywords to your listings. So the biggest thing that you can do, you can definitely do this on a platform like Pinterest, is to look up trending fashion aesthetics. One of the biggest ones that comes to mind is Barbiecore. There was another new trend that I still can't quite describe, but it is Gorpcore. Grunge aesthetic is a really big one. Along with that is like the punk aesthetic. And one of my biggest ones aside from Barbiecore is definitely dark academia and light academia. So if you have a really unique piece that you think matches a certain fashion aesthetic, definitely look up that aesthetic and see any other type of relevant keywords that you can add to your listing. And when it comes to adding those to your listing, there are two different ways that you could really do it. The first one is to put tags at the bottom of your listing. I definitely do this one more. Basically, you just put tags and you separate every single keyword with a comma. That is something that I think can really bring a lot of people to your page. But another way to do it is to add maybe more sentences to your listing. So something that I have been messing around with just a little bit is adding maybe a headline to my description. I'll show this vintage Scassi dress that I did add a few more sentences to. I basically talk about the dress being striking, a head turner, just very simple things like that. I don't want to overwhelm a potential buyer with too many words in the listing. Usually I like to have more of a list feature where I say the brand, size, condition, and other simple things like measurements and color and pattern. But sometimes it is nice to see a little more personality in the description. It just reminds you that there is a human that is actually selling this item. And that is definitely something that a lot of websites do on their listing. For example, when I'm adding product descriptions from a website like Lulu's, when I'm selling a Lulu's dress, they definitely have very unique descriptions where you almost feel like they're telling a story about the item that they're selling. But overall, having a keyword heavy listing is huge because there are so many aesthetics. If you go onto something like TikTok, you will see a lot of the younger generation with all of these aesthetics and cores. They're always talking about fashion, so it is definitely important to add a lot of relevant keywords. And overall, it is a great way to optimize your listing when it comes to people searching on Poshmark and other platforms, along with people searching for items on Google. All right, the final tip I'm going to talk about for how to be a successful reseller and grow your business in 2023 is promoting your items in your closet. Now, this is something that you don't always need to do, but if you do want to have social media dedicated to your Poshmark or your reselling business, you definitely need to consider who you are actually promoting your items to. Are you promoting your items to other resellers or are you promoting your items to shoppers? Now, don't get me wrong. When I do see fellow resellers post really cool listings, I will go check them out and I will occasionally buy them and participate in their sales. But as a seller on Poshmark, I am not looking to spend all of my earnings on other people's Poshmark closets unless I really need something. So something that I've actually learned from a Whatnot seller, her username is AmyNC on Whatnot, and I think on Instagram too, is that you should be using relevant hashtags to actually target shoppers rather than other resellers. This is something that I was very guilty of and I have recently changed on my social media. If you look at my older hashtags that I've been using up until around a month and a half to 2 months ago, I was using hashtags that are relevant to resellers. I won't say it all because there are a lot, but I will show you all a screenshot. As you can see, there are a lot of things that have reseller in the hashtags. I have all of the platforms that I'm selling on. Reseller community is a really big one to target other resellers. But in the end, I was only getting engagement from other resellers. And obviously it is important to have a community and I love meeting other resellers. I will continue using those hashtags, but along with that, I am also using hashtags like Insta Fashion, Women's Fashion, Fashion Trends 2023, and other very relevant hashtags that shoppers are looking for. Now, again, this isn't something that applies to all resellers because you can be a successful reseller without the social media aspect. I've seen a lot of people on Poshmark Facebook groups, for example, that have been full-time resellers for years. This is their sole income and they're making a great living. So having social media is not necessary. But if you do want to have that promotion side of things and you want to maybe be a sort of influencer, or if you are like me and you wanted to have a YouTube channel along with your reseller business, because having a YouTube and having an Instagram is a huge part of my reseller business, you should definitely be paying attention to who is actually engaging with your social media and make an effort to target not just other resellers to build that community, but also target other shoppers. We have now gone over my 4 main tips on how to grow and be a successful reseller in 2023. Like I said earlier, I am a part-time turned full-time reseller, so these are tips and tricks that I will continue implementing to my reseller business this year. And again, as Poshmark is updating, we need to continue updating our business strategies and business models so that we can continue being successful as resellers on the app and on other platforms. So I really hope that you all got some sort of value out of this video. And if you want to keep up with me on social media, I am Closet by Joelle on Instagram. And if you want to follow me on my platforms or look at referral links, I'm pretty much Closet by Joelle on all of my platforms. So again, I hope that I provided some sort of value to you all. And thank you all so much, as always, for supporting my channel. And now that you're at the end of this video, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you for the next video.